How's it going, guys? As you can see, I've done a bit of shuffling around in the reptile room because today I just got this new enclosure and we're going to set it up for some brand new animals. Now, it wasn't until I literally just put this enclosure here that I realised this bank is going to be a Western Australian reptile bank. We've got the pygmy python who's just been moved over here, who's doing great as always in that beautiful enclosure. We have my Centralian blue tongues down here, and then under them we have a couple of Western blue tongues as well. Now the final piece of the puzzle is going to be this enclosure right here, and this is going to be for some reptiles I've wanted for quite a long time. I've worked with a lot professionally, and there's some spiky little units and they're really, really cool. Now funnily enough, these new reptiles actually act quite a lot like a Gillen's monitor, like my little dude here who's just become a little bit camera shy by the looks of it. There he is. So we're going to be setting up an enclosure that's similar style to this, but obviously going to look a bit different with some different hollow logs and stuff like that. So let's go out the back and see what we can find. Alright, so up in the backyard here I have all my extra reptile decor in this little shed here. So as you can see, I've got a lot of hollow logs and rocks and things, and this is where I come when I need to set up my new enclosures. And this is all stuff that we've just gathered over time, you know, from trees falling down or anything like that. And I've got some pretty good pieces here, so that might work pretty well, but we'll see what else we have. We've got a couple smaller hollow logs here, which might be perfect for the size of the enclosure. I think this one actually might fit in. And then what I want is a big slanted sort of basking area like the Gillen's enclosure. Let's see, I think that one could be pretty good. But this one, I think this one's pretty hollow all the way through. It's got a good little hole there, and it is actually hollow all the way through. So I think this one will be pretty good to use. Now I think these logs are going to look really good in this setup. I think they should fit pretty well. Now I'm hoping I don't have to cut this one down at all. I think it should fit. That'll be perfect. So luckily enough too, we've cut it in the past that it will actually stand up like that. So I think I'll push this one to the back, have that as a sort of tree that's coming out of the back that we can see, and then they can get inside it and everything like that. Now this other piece here, which is going to be their main basking log, we're going to have to cut this one. So I'm thinking just like the Gillen's monitor enclosure, going to have a similar thing. It's going to be on a slant just like that with the heat on top so they can come out of the hollows and everything like that and get that heat. But I think we'll have to cut it around here somewhere in order for it to fit, and because I want to prop it up against each side of the glass just like in the Gillen's enclosure as well. So we'll try cutting it off here. A good tip is to always do a bit extra than you think you'll need, just in case you do accidentally cut too much, so you can always cut off more later. So I'm thinking something like that. We'll cut it there and see how that looks. So for substrate, I'm using my typical arid mix. I've got some red sand, as well as some crushed granite, and then also a little bit of sieved Yuki mulch, just for a nice different mixture of textures, as well as something that's going to look nice and stay fresher for longer. So from there we can start adding in our decorations. So of course we'll start with our hollow log, and then from there I'm going to be adding in some of these spindly little branches and sticks just to make it look a bit more dense and cover in a bit of that background. So next I'm going to add in a bit of greenery to make it look even more natural. So I've got some of this tea tree here, and it kind of loosely mimics the look of what it looks like out in the wild for them. So I'm going to pop this in as well, and I think it'll look pretty good. Now with how this enclosure is set up, it's actually got quite a bit of a hot spot at the front here because it's sitting underneath my blue tongue enclosure underneath, and that's going to be good for one of the animals, which I'll tell you about later. But because it's going to be cooler towards the back, I'm just going to hide this sort of ugly water bowl back behind the log here, so it's out of the way so we can't really see it because it's not very natural looking anyway. And I think to finish it off, I'm going to add a couple rocks in the bottom where they can squeeze under and hide if they really want to. Even though they have the hollow log to hide in, it's good to give the animals options. So here we have our final setup. Like I said, it's a pretty simple setup. They're just going to have that log to bask on and hide it and everything. They can move up and down, and then a bit of other stuff for them to climb around in if they want. Otherwise it just looks nice for the enclosure. The little rock stack at the bottom there, they can get under and inside if they want. And yeah, pretty simple, but let's get the animals in there. And so here we have the brand new reptiles to the reptile room. It's a really cool species that I've wanted for a long time. Some of the coolest little creatures you'll ever see. So these are of course some pygmy spiny tail skinks. These are Egernia depressa, so this is the sort of grey form. And they're just such cool little animals. You see their little spiky tails and everything like that. They're just such an impressive little skink. And they're related to your Cunningham skinks and things like that you get on the East Coast, but these guys come from Western Australia. So these are the southern form of the spiny tail skinks. And they're just such a beautiful, cool little animal, and they don't get very big at all. So these ones, you know, they're probably only going to grow another third or so larger. I've actually got 3 here, and 2 of them are absolutely perfect, and then I got 1 that's a little bit special. Now in the wild and oftentimes in captivity, these guys will live in little family groups, and so they're very tight-knit little community. And if there's anyone that they don't like, they'll kick them out pretty quick. But obviously in captivity, they can't quite escape that easily. And so one of these little guys was housed with another animal that didn't obviously like it, and he actually ended up biting off both his front legs. So pretty brutal little animals, but he's doing fine now. And those animals aren't housed together, of course. These 3 have been getting along perfect with their previous owner. So I've got my fingers crossed that they'll all continue to get along in this new enclosure. So I've affectionately named the little guy Nubs, because he's got little nubs on the front of his body there. And it's going to help with this enclosure that it's sitting on top of one of my other banks. It's going to get the heat from below, so if he can't climb up the main basking log, he's still going to get a good whack of heat right in the front of the enclosure there. So let's pop these little guys in. I'm so excited to see them explore. Let's pop them in, see what they do. Nubs. They're pretty fast little animals. So they haven't even been in here for 10 minutes, and Nubs has already shown me that he is absolutely capable of climbing. No worries at all. Look at that little face. He's just been staring at me for the last 5 minutes. Oh, this is amazing. I love that little dude. So I hope you guys enjoyed seeing my brand new reptiles. Of course, over time I'm going to make this enclosure even better with some more logs and probably build a background and stuff like that. So make sure you subscribe to keep updated with everything going on with my animals here. Otherwise, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.